Hey everyone, it's Tara. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with my October wrap-up. I am filming this on November 2nd. That's unusual these days. Hopefully I get it posted promptly too. But anyways, in October I read 8 books. And I feel like I had a really good reading month. I enjoyed everything that I read. I did give a couple 3.5 stars, but I mean, that's not a bad rating by any means. It's above average. So it was a really, really good month. Yeah, so let's just hop right into it. So first up, I read Less by Andrew Sean Greer. I listened to this on audio and I gave it 3.5 stars. It wasn't my most favorite book ever, but it was really good. It did win a Pulitzer Prize. So this follows Arthur Less. He is a middle-aged man about ready to turn 50. He gets a wedding invitation in the mail for his former boyfriend's wedding. And he's like, why am I getting this? He basically makes himself super busy, super unavailable so that he's not able to go to the wedding, and also isn't dwelling on it. So he goes on a bunch of work trips and things like that. So you kind of are following him going to all of these different locations. He's an author, by the way. So he goes to all of these different locations. You're following him as he's visiting all of these different places, and you also get flashbacks to how he met or came to know the people that he's visiting, because he is visiting a few friends along the way. You get snippets of his relationship with this former boyfriend who's getting married, things like that. It was very easy to listen to. It was very easy to follow. There was I would say it's more character driven. You're dwelling up, you're dealing a lot with Arthur and following his life, but there is still a bit of a plot. Overall, I mean, there were some funny things that happened. There were some more kind of sad, depressing things that happened. Overall, it was good. Not great. They did just I was at my library a week or two after reading this, and there's a sequel to this that just came out. It was on my library new books shelf. So yeah, it's fine. I might read the sequel if I can get it on audio through Libby for free. I don't think I would read it physically. But it was good. Then I need to move my stack of books. Then I listened to Educated by Tara Westover, and I gave this 5 stars. This was really, really, really good. And I've heard a lot of really good things about it. So this follows Tara Westover. She grew up Mormon, which I did as well. But she grew up, her parents were very extreme. She didn't go to normal school. She was I would say homeschooled, but they put very little emphasis on education at all. Her family didn't believe in modern medicine. They had a very holistic approach to things. She to the point where if they were seriously injured, they were no, you can't go to the ER, you can't go to the doctors, things like that. So when she is old enough, she ends up applying to go to college. She gets into BYU, and just the difference from how she grew up to BYU was eye-opening for her, even though she grew up in the religion. And it kind of it's her life story, and I thought it was very interesting. I do have some of the background that she has in the religion, so I knew and could relate to some of the things she was talking about. So it was very interesting to me, but there were other things that you're whoa, even someone who grew up Mormon, you're whoa, that is not even what the church believes to that extreme. But it was very, very good. Her story is just fascinating. She overcame a lot, and she had like, to the point, like she had like such an interesting relationship with every member of her family, that like I just mind blowing. So very like I loved it. Highly recommend. It was a very easy to listen to memoir. Then I read Evidence of Love, a true story of passion and death in the suburbs by John Bloom and Jim Atkinson. I read this for my book club. This is the book that the Hulu series Candy, that stars Jessica Biel, is based off of, and this is about a murder in a suburb in the 1980s. It is, oh, I gave this 4 stars. It was very interesting to read. The biggest complaint that I have, and it was a huge complaint with like everyone in my book club, was you get a lot of background information about like everything, which some of it is relevant, but they like to the point where like you were getting background information on like the defense lawyer. I don't really care about the background of the defense, like the background of the defense lawyer being like in and his personal life. That wasn't relevant to this story. If you want to tell me about like other like cases that he had fought, you know, whatever, that's fine. But like this was background information about the lawyer's personal life, not relevant. So you do get a lot of detail that was not all pertinent to the story, but overall very fascinating, very like interesting to like to kind of see what happened and how the like case went down, how the investigation went down, and how they came to the verdict that they came to, which I don't know. It's still like mind blowing to me. In case you haven't seen the documentary or don't know about it, I won't tell you what happens, but it was very interesting. Very, yeah. I should also say, so this follows Candy Montgomery, who was like a like pillar in her community, like goes to church every Sunday type person, and she goes to her friend Betty Gore's house one day, and later that day Betty Gore is found dead, killed by an axe, like whacked like 40 something times, and so presumably like Candy is the last person to have seen Betty Gore alive. So she starts off as like a witness to this, but then like things start like coming out that, okay, was she just the last person to see Candy or see Betty alive, or like was she the killer? Very interesting. Yeah, it was a good like true crime book. I'll give it that. I'll say that. All right. Ugh. Then I read The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand. I gave this 4.5 stars. This was not my favorite Ellen Hildebrand book. It's not my least favorite Ellen Hildebrand book, but especially of her like more recent novels. Let's see. I started reading Ellen Hildebrand when Summer of '69 came out in 2019, I think, was the first Ellen Hildebrand book I read. And I read it like right after it was released. So since then, like all of her like more recent books, I think I've given all of those 5 stars. I gave this 4.5 stars. So you are following the employees of the Hotel Nantucket, which is a hotel that just opened. It had been, I should say, just reopened. It had been like refurbished by this big like real estate tycoon thing, and reopened. So you're following them in like their first like season of being open, and you follow like all of the different like employees. It's a fairly small staff. There's the manager, a couple of front desk employees, a couple of like cleaning staff, and a couple of like I want to say bellhops, but that's not the right word. What is the word I'm looking for? You get it. Um, and the other kind of like interesting, not standard like twist to this is that there's also a ghost that haunts this hotel. But you're following like more of like the day-to-day happenings in the hotel from like different employees' perspectives. So I would say there's not like a firm plot. The overarching plot is they're trying to earn like this really, really good rating from like some like hotel reviewer on Instagram. So that's like the overarching goal of their first season is they want to get 5 keys from this like rating, like a 5 key rating, which has never been done by this I don't know, Instagrammer. And so that's like their main goal. And so everything that you follow is like, how are they going to like get these 5 keys? But you're following, like I said, like just like different, like the throughout the entire summer, different perspectives of all of the employees. There's some like drama between like the 2 like front desk attendants. There's a little bit of like potential romance between one of the front desk attendants and one of the like, what is the word I'm looking for? Not bellhops. There's some like drama. You get like an interesting backstory behind one of the like members of like the cleaning staff. There's some interesting like things that happen. I just am used to like there being a more firm, I guess, like plot in Ellen Hildebrand's books. Not that this was bad. It was very easy to read. And I loved the like aspect of the ghost Grace. That was very interesting. But it just was a little bit different than what I'm used to. So 4.5 stars for this. Then I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I gave this 5 stars. I don't know what it is about Colleen Hoover. I've only read 3 Colleen Hoover books. I read Verity, Layla, and now It Ends With Us. And like, I like start them out and I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. Like, but then there like comes a point, I'd say like maybe like a third of the way through, where it's just like, I have to keep reading. I have to know what happens. And like, I read like the rest of the book in a day. And that happened here. Like, they like, she throws things in that you're like, wait, what just happened? And you just like have to keep reading. So in this, you follow Lily, who ends up, she has like a bit of a past. Like she had a like not great relationship with her parents growing up. She ends up she grew up in Maine. Is it Maine? Yeah. She grew up in Maine, went to school, and then decided she's going to move to Boston. When she moves to Boston, then her father passes away. She goes to her father's funeral, comes back, and ends up like kind of randomly meeting this guy, Ryle. And they end up like kind of like meeting, like having a couple like different like meet cutes, if you will. They end up in a relationship. So that's kind of the basis of the story. But you also get kind of flashbacks of her growing up. You get like her like diary entries, and it's really funny. She like, when she was growing up, she wrote, like the way she wrote in her diary was like to Ellen DeGeneres. And so you're reading some of these like old like diary journal entries, and you get to kind of see how she grew up and why she kind of like wants to distance herself from certain aspects of her past. She also ends up opening like a flower shop, which does play into the story. That's not just a random tidbit of information. She wants to pursue her dream of like owning a flower shop. And yeah, so you're essentially following the relationship of Lily and Ryle. And there are some twists, turns, things you don't see coming, like along the way. And I don't know what it is about Colleen Hoover, but every book that I've read, and this one was a little bit different than Verity and Layla. I'd say Verity and Layla had more of like a thriller type feel to it, like almost like a domestic thriller type feel. This one, it was still like thrilling, but it was more romancy than thrillery. Where I feel like Verity and Layla were more thrillery and less romancy. But very, very good. Really enjoyed it. All right. Let me just pick up these last 3 books. Then I read 3 Wishes by Leanne Moriarty. I listened to this on audio. I gave this 3.5 stars. This is like easily my least favorite Leanne Moriarty book. Again, not bad by any means, but different than her other books that I've read. So I feel like Leanne Moriarty does kind of do more, like a lot of her other like books that I've read, and I've read a good amount of her books, have been more, I'd say, yeah, they've been kind of more, I get thrillery is like the best word, but that's not the right word. More like mysterious, I guess. Where this one, you're just kind of following these triplets, leading up to their 34th birthday. And you're just kind of following that year of their lives. And along the way, so you're following that year of their lives. You also get at the end of chapters, and this, I didn't really understand the point of this, is at the end of every chapter, you had these vignettes, is that the right word? I don't know, snippets of different people having encountered the triplets throughout their childhood and growing up. I thought that was kind of unnecessary and kind of threw me off, especially because I was listening to the audio and not actively reading it while I was listening to it. But yeah, it was just following these 3 triplets. So 2 of them are identical, and the third one is, I don't even know, fraternal to the other 2. I don't even know how that works, but 2 of them are identical and one of them looks slightly different. And you're just following their day-to-day lives in their 33rd year. And they all have some their own different drama going on. They have, the interesting multiples relationship, having all grown up together, went to school together. They all are have their own personalities and how those personalities play against each other. There's overarching family drama, amongst between their parents and them. It was fine. It was easy to listen to, except for those little snippets at the end of every chapter, but it wasn't great. It was not what I'm used to from Leanne Moriarty. This was nothing like Big Little Lies, nothing like 9 Perfect Strangers, where there's a little bit of what's going on, ooh, I'm on the edge of my seat type thing. This was a lot more just 3 sisters going about their days. Then I read The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This one got 4 stars from me. This is my least favorite Riley Sager book. Still enjoyed it. I still gave it 4 stars, but it was nothing like Home Before Dark or Lock Every Door or anything like that. This one, there were some very interesting twists right towards the end, but it was, I don't know. I think Survive the Night and The House Across the Lake. So his most recent book, this one came out this year, and Survive the Night came out last year. They just haven't hit quite the same as his other books. Not bad by any means. I mean, it's still 4 stars, but just not the same. So in this, you follow Casey Fletcher. She is a young widowed actress, and she's kind of found herself in a bit of a bind, if you will. So she ends up kind of going to her family's lake house Vermont. her family's lake house in Vermont to kind of like step away from the spotlight and do some healing. And she's there, and this couple, this like very famous couple, ends up buying the house across the lake from her. And so this couple, like, the wife is a former model, and the husband is he's like developed an app, he like recently developed an app. So they're like, but they're very like well known. And she ends up befriending the wife, and then the wife kind of disappears, and Casey is like, what happened? Like, what's going on? And she's like spying on them like from across the lake, because she's convinced that like something fishy happened. And so you're following that. It wasn't like, I don't know what it is. I can't like articulate what it is that made it like less good to me as like The Home Before Dark and some of Riley Sager's like older works. But it was different. But again, like I still enjoyed it. I still like the last, like I'd say the last like quarter to a third of the book, you're like, wait, what? Like all of this stuff starts happening, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is what happened. Nope, that's not what happened. Oh my gosh, like what just happened? Like, are you kidding me? Like, and there is still, as we've seen in other Riley Sager books, there is like a I don't know if like paranormal is probably like the best word to describe it. There is a little bit of like a paranormal element where you're like, what? Like, interesting, like, and it takes a turn that you're not expecting, which I've come to really like about Riley Sager, and that is present in this. So, but I just can't put my finger on like what made it like slightly less enjoyable than his other books that I've given 5 stars. But it was still good. Would I like say like I would say start with this and then go to some of his other books if you like are looking to like dip your toes into Riley Sager, because if you do it like the opposite, I feel like you might be slightly disappointed. So yeah, it's not my favorite Riley Sager, but still good. Then right at the end of the month, finished this on Halloween, I think, is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I gave this 5 stars, which like it's funny to me. I shouldn't say it's funny. Like, I've only read one other Sarah Adams book, which was, what's it called? Well Met? Was that right? The Match? I don't remember. What was that book called? I'll put it here. Or here, wherever. And I gave that one 5 stars too, which like, and I'll say the same thing about The Cheat Sheet that I did about whichever other one I've read, which I can't think of right now, is it's not like it was like anything like mind-blowing. I just thoroughly enjoyed myself while I was reading it. I loved the story. I loved like everything about it. Like, it was just, like, I just felt happy reading it. And you know what? That is important to me, and so it gets 5 stars. A lot of people have, like, critiques about this book on Goodreads. I enjoyed it. So in this, you are following Bree, who is a dancer, ballerina. She's like a ballet instructor. And her best friend, Nathan. So they were friends in high school. They kind of like parted ways for a little bit in college, and they have since reunited and like rekindled their friendship, and they are like BFFs, but they both have like feelings for each other that the other one doesn't know about. And so they're like, I don't want to say anything because like I don't want this to ruin our friendship, because they're like, his friendship or her friendship is like the most important thing to me. So they've each had like a kind of a string of like relationships that have failed for one reason or another. And they end up kind of finding themselves in a situation where the best thing, because, oh, important, Nathan is like an NFL quarterback, so very like high profile, and they find themselves in a situation where Nathan's like agent or manager is like, yeah, you guys now have to like fake date. So it's like a friends to lovers and fake dating like tropes. You have both of those tropes in here, which is just like really interesting, because it's like, okay, like this person who like I am 100% myself around, like incredibly comfortable with them, like as our relationship stands now, like we now have to take it up a notch. And if taking it up, like, is taking it up a notch for like this fake dating going to ruin our friendship, or is this going to be the catalyst we need to like actually like do this thing? One of the things that I've loved about both of the books by her that I've read is it's very much like behind closed doors, as far as like there's very little like sexy times. And I love that in my romances. I've gotten better about like reading more of like the steamy stuff, but I love just like kind of like leaving that, you know, to the imagination. So I think I will continue to read Sarah Adams in the future, because that is something that I really like and appreciate about her books. So that is my October wrap up. Had a good time. Didn't read quite as many books as I wanted to. I also didn't read quite as many like more thriller books as I wanted to, but I had a good time reading what I read. That's what it's important. Let me know down below, how was your October? What was your favorite book you read? That is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!